What's up, buddies, and welcome into the Playmakers Blueprint. I'm your girl, Bria Goss, and I'm so excited to be here today because we have a very, very special person. This is the podcast where we get to talk about crafting champions and shaping leaders. And thank goodness we have one of my favorites. Okay, let me get her resume out. Okay, so Miss BeLinda Goss, you are a mother of four, grandmother of two, youngest of 16, 10 girls, 6 boys, competitive from the jump, competed in basketball, track, and excelled in softball. Going back to the softball days, there was no AAU at the time. However, you did start at first base on the women's softball team at the ages from 11 to 15. I love that. Moved to Georgia and graduated from Reading High School in 84. Majored in business administration at Perimeter College and Georgia State University, while also working full-time at an insurance industry. Married for 35 years and currently works as an administrative assistant to 11 physicians. Welcome in, BeLinda Goss, aka Mommy. How you feeling?
I feel fantastic.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. You didn't have a choice, but thank you for being here.
You're so welcome.
Yeah. Excited?
Yes,
All right.
excited.
Well, we like to usually start off with a few questions. Okay. So we like to call it our 24-second shot clock. Okay.
Okay.
Rapid fire. Answer as quick as you can. That'll be 24 seconds.
Okay.
Ready? Is there one thing that you could talk about for hours?
Well, besides my children, maybe cooking.
Mm-hmm. What's your middle name?
Okay.
What's your favorite color?
Purple.
What's the most exciting thing in your life right now?
Ooh. My grandkids.
Oh,
And my children too.
who was your favorite child?
Oh, I don't have a favorite.
Okay, here we go. Now that we have your full attention, clearly, let's get right into it. So, Mom, I really wanted to have you on the podcast to talk specifically about humility and what that means to you, not only in your sports, but as a mother, as somebody that has a profession, a successful person in their marriage. So we'll just kind of get right into it, okay?
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about your sports background.
Well, my sports background is more so from a community background.
Mhm.
I did, run track and had a little bit of experience in basketball, but it was early on in my years. But softball was my favorite sport.
Yeah.
And I think because I grew up with that, my brother-in-law was my coach. And so he taught me early on how to play softball and all the rules. So he allowed me to practice with the women's team
Yeah.
from a very young age. So I caught on very quickly. And before you know it, he actually put me on the team when I was 11 years old on a women's team.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
so that was like grown woman.
Grown women.
Hey, did you hold your own?
I held my own.
There you go. That's what's up.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, you did that from 11 to 15, right?
11 to 15.
Okay.
And I moved when I was 15.
And you moved when you were 15. All right. And did you pick up softball again, or?
I didn't.
Okay.
Nope. I ended up staying with my sister, and she needed me to do other things at the time. So I did that.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like that's a big thing, and we'll get into that too. Just, I think your background, where you came from, definitely shaped the mother that you are. So very, very selfless. Dee and I talked about it in our Anyway, okay, so we know a little bit about that. And this is, specifically a podcast where we talk about how the things we learned in our sports world, and now we are embracing them and putting into our workplace.
Yes.
But that can come at any levels, right? Like you can be elite, professional, MVP, this, and the other athlete, but you can also be an athlete or not. Actually, I've had some, wasn't even an athlete. So, but being able to still navigate from those lessons and things. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, how did your sports background shape your approach to raising your children?
Well, discipline. It's key. In sports, in your own personal life. So that was one of the things that we taught our kids first is we had to discipline you guys.
Yeah.
To get you in the right mind frame to be able to accept instruction.
Yeah.
So yeah, discipline would be the first thing.
Yeah.
And then humility. We had to just little lessons to teach them, to make sure that you're taking care of one another. Not we don't do talking bad about one another. No. So
You sure? Because you didn't tell me that lesson. Because you was talking go bad about me.
no, well, you guys did those things not in my sight. I'll hear you guys upstairs, getting in little tuffles, but never.
I would hear her.
I think that was you too. Okay. Yeah, you too. But yeah, just learning how to take care of one another. I mean, I do. One of the funniest stories that I have about that is early on, dear, I knew what made you happy. And you were always the kind of kid that loved to listen.
I know where the story's going. I know where the story's going.
In order to get the room clean, she would read to you while you clean the room. So that worked out for you guys. So
did it work out? What was that? Who was that?
That was very smart on Vera's part.
It's a not so smart on.
Well, you got what you wanted to. It's a nice long story. You've always loved reading and listening.
Okay.
Funny kid.
Yeah. Listen, I was very humble. Okay. I was a very humble kid.
Yes.
Okay. So do you think you initially used these lessons that you learned from sports to teach your kids about humility?
I think early on, yes. Because like I said, my background is faith-based. And so we always kept you guys in church. That helped and actually that shaped you guys' lives.
Yeah.
Just to be able to put you in Sunday schools, things that helped us raise you, because we could not have done it on our own.
Right.
Because we were still growing, and so we needed that help to raise you guys.
Right.
And of course, you're in church, they're teaching you life lessons, humility, obedience, and things like that.
Yeah.
We just carry that on with you guys.
Yeah. And what would you say is, humble? Like, how is one humble?
Well, being able to accept losses, disappointments, and still be able to praise somebody else. And, for instance, a tough loss in a game. Yeah, it hurts. If you want to just, be angry. But I think a person, when they realize that this is a game, this is not the end of the world. This person, they did well. They beat us. They were the best team tonight. So, yes. So you have to be able to accept that and still give them credit for what they've done.
Yeah, I think just from the jump, I feel like I've always been, humble, even off the court when I was young, but especially when I was on the court.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah. The thing is, most of the time, especially, as a little kid, you were always, you could tell who was the better kid on the team. But you couldn't tell by the way you acted.
Yeah.
You didn't act boastful. You didn't act, puffed up.
Right.
But you always, talked very nice to your teammates, gave them credit, and actually, things like that.
Yeah.
That said a lot about you and your humbleness. And people recognize that as early on.
Yeah, I think some people say that that's a boring way of playing, because they like, the arrogance and the cockiness and the chest bumps and some people say like that was more exciting than.
I can see why they say that, because not always, I mean, your sisters are very humble in their own way. A lot of people like to see that puffed upness and and a kid that like to sacrifice for the team. To me, that shows a lot of humility as well.
Mm.
And I believe all of you guys have sacrificed because you want the win.
Yeah.
You don't have to necessarily get the credit.
Sure.
Now, as a mother sitting in the stands, that's different, and it's hard for me.
My dog's out there. Oh,
Oh, I think it's crazy. I just recognize what you do. I don't want you to get the credit for it.
Mhm.
And not all the time,
Yeah.
you don't need it. You're comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah.
And that's what matters.
Right. So basically, like, even though, you're not still up the stat sheet,
Right.
or maybe you aren't filling out the stat sheet.
Mhm.
You should still approach it the exact same way if that's how you're using it.
Exactly.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a personal story where you had to show or teach humility in the family?
Every day.
Okay, just
I'm kidding.
say that.
No, a personal story teaching humility.
Uh-huh.
I always try to live my life as an example for you guys. Um, not so much now because you guys are grown and so we have a little bit more leeway. But as growing up, I was very you probably thought I was strict, but it was just to teach lessons of humility,
Thoughts? Girl, you was, that's not sugarcoated, okay?
Well,
There was no leeway.
it was,
You know it.
I wasn't strict. I just had rules and structure. That's what I like to call it. I can't think of any specific thing that I did. I mean, it just came so natural.
Yeah.
We had such a rigid structure.
Yeah.
And I developed that when I was able to become a stay-at-home mom with you guys.
Mhm.
And I knew in order to be successful at raising you guys, at keeping a household together, um, there have to be things in place.
Yeah.
And
We need that structure.
yeah, you need a structure. So I guess if structure could be a part of, learning humility,
Yeah.
that would be the thing that I focus on.
All right. So clearly you have seen us grow up and play sports, different sports and things, right? How would you say your background in sports has helped our background in sports?
Well, my background in sports, growing up where I grew up, we didn't, I didn't have the opportunities that you guys had.
Uh-huh.
Um, I actually lived like, it took me an hour to get to school every day. So it was hard to get the adult to want you to participate in sports because then they have to come pick you up from practices and that long distance, it just wasn't something that they wanted to do.
All right.
So I always made sure that you guys had every opportunity and I was going to make sure you had all of your practices, all of your games on time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that kind of shaped me the way that I grew up and the way I wanted my children to have those opportunities.
Yeah.
So
No, I think you hit it right on the nail because, like you said, I think your upbringing, okay, was very different than ours, and I think that was a big way because of what you learned and went through, as a child, and not wanting us to have to go through anything remotely. Not to say that your sisters didn't do a good job. They did the very best they could. You know what I mean? That's what they had. But I could tell, like, as I gotten older, that there was just some opportunities that you didn't have.
Yeah.
That you were sacrificing for, still sacrifice, still, because, I mean, how many games have you missed? I'm curious, honestly. Exactly. So, maybe two. Right. And that's hours, away and things like that. So, yeah, I think you have just fully taken on that role of, even though this isn't what I did, I want better for the next. And I mean, that helps us too, not only on sports, but in, when we get into our own personal lives, whether that's work or relationships or motherhood, we want to be able to put others before us in some circumstances too.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah.
And you've led by example on that. So kudos to you. Thank you. Kudos. Okay. Did you have a example or story where you taught us to be humble? And like in a situation, was there a situation where you remember like, oh yeah, like Bria was being very humble in that, or Dear was being very humble in that?
Well, I think about your accolades. I mean, I think about how one specific time was after you guys lost to Carmel.
Oh boy.
I
Oh well.
the very next day had a photo shoot with I don't know whether it was a paper or
My senior.
your senior year.
Oh.
I didn't think I had to teach you humility at that time, but you were humble. You were very humble. After we lost,
Humbled is exactly right. Hey, because God will humble you every time.
God will humble you every time. No, that was a very difficult situation you went through, but you went through. You did your photo shoot. You had questions asked. You didn't even, they didn't tell that you were hurting so badly inside.
Yeah.
But I knew it. But you showed such humility, and like I said, I didn't teach you at that moment.
Right.
But I hope that by the way that we live in front of you, how you never see us actually putting people down for wins or losses or things like that. So you just picked yourself up and did what you needed to do.
Right.
Got back home and, that was a different story, but
Boo-hooing.
But I thought that was to me, that at that moment showed me how strong of a person that you were. You humbled me. I was ready to, good blows,
Lord,
maybe
Lord, help it.
But you just, you've always shown the humility.
So let's talk about your marriage. Okay. Are you still married to that man?
No, yes.
They're still married, 35 years and counting.
High school sweetheart.
High school. You don't see that anywhere either. So humility in your marriage. What does that look like?
Ooh, I had to swallow some big pills.
This is a drug free.
Not drug pills, but the humility.
Okay. The humility. Okay, I love that. Thank you for clarifying.
Because marriage is a give and take. We have to. We're still learning things about women. Wow. Even after 35 years, marriages really, they evolve, just like change, different times in your life. Our marriage was totally different from when we first started having kids to the middle of, raising you guys and to the end, as you guys are adults. So it's constantly changing. For the better. I think yeah. So, because at this point you do know one another, but you still got that, surprise and excitement in marriages, and Derek and I are still going strong.
Yeah.
So we still love to support our children and our grandkids, and to us, that's what it's about. Now, we have enjoyed every moment of every sports you guys have been involved in.
And I never thought about that. Like, you feel like that's not made you guys closer to and as a unit, just kind of watching us evolve as athletes.
We've spent so many hours in the car together, with you guys, talking. And friend Dad used to ask you questions before you actually we answer the questions, math questions or whatever. Then he'd give you your Gatorade. That always was so funny to me, but just being able to do that kind of stuff with your kid.
Yeah.
We have spent a lot of time together.
Yeah.
And I think that really did make a big difference as well.
Yeah.
Our family, Friday night, family night, you know.
I don't want you to tell the story.
Okay. But it's all in teaching humility, actually, what we're talking about.
It is.
It's because, those little games that you play and you lose and those,
Yeah.
you have to talk to you about how you're acting.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yeah.
those little things helped.
Friday nights were fun.
Oh man, you guys would miss birthday parties because you did not want to miss.
Yes. And listening, our Friday night family nights were when our parents would order pizza and we would either watch a movie together or play a game like Monopoly or cards or something. And we did that for years. Yeah, growing up. Bring that back. Well, actually, I feel like during COVID, I feel like we kind of brought that back a little bit, and we were able to kind of have that time. And unfortunately, it's terrible as COVID was. I think that kind of recentered our family because we're so busy.
Everybody's
yeah.
And we were always out of the country, and so it allowed you and your little sister to connect,
Right?
Because you were gone by the time she came.
I didn't know who Kira was.
Yeah.
I think it was a stranger. And I got to learn who she was. I was like, oh, she's cool. We cool. We can keep her. Yeah. I think those times, when we were younger and going back to the family nights, I think those times were able to really highlight like some core, personality traits that we have. Like our character kind of came from those nights, right? So
Absolutely.
we were competitive when we were playing.
Yes.
We were also like, you guys never took it easy on us.
Oh no, Dad would not let you win. He wouldn't even let the 2-year-old Harrison with Cheerio. He gets it. No. So humility was always being taught in our home. And being gracious, literally always.
So we talked about your marriage. We talked about just how raising humble children, it's just an overall bonus. Where do you see our humility in our workplace?
I would say, well, you, dear, and Harrison are all in positions that have to deal with people, customers, CEOs, even Harrison with his behavioral. He's not a behavior specialist, but he's he worked with a lot of behavioral issues, and which is more surprising to me than what you guys are doing, because I never would have thought that he would have been that kind of person.
Right.
He loves working with children,
I know.
First of all, but also children with some behavioral issues. And for one example, with him, when he first started working with the kids, I picked him up from work one day. He was telling me about what had gone on that day, and I think one of the kids had hit him or something, and how he had to remember while he's there what these kids are going through. He had to humble himself.
Right.
His first reaction would have been to try to, get the kid back or something like that, but he had to really step back and humble himself. And me, as a mom, I was like, but they should call the authorities on these kids for doing things like that. He said, no, they don't need to be locked up. They need love from their parents. They need the attention from their parents. A lot of these kids are not getting the attention. And I was like, that was surprising coming from him. Not that he's a bad kid or anything like that. It's just surprised me that he is a humble young man and understand the assignment in his position. And as far as Tierra, oh my goodness, she definitely has had to exercise humility, every day, with the job that she does. She's a very strong person, and sometimes she can come off as rough around the edges because she's such a stickler for the rules.
Right.
So she constantly have to pull back a little bit
Right.
and give someone else the chance to shine,
Right.
go and see if you can do this on your own and everything. And we know, with you and KK, um, very very humble, always selfless,
Yeah.
always doing the things that don't show up on the set, and good with it, and you're good with it,
Yeah.
and like I said, that teaches you mother humility. Because you're doing things that don't show up on the stat sheet, so somebody else should be recognizing that. But you don't need that recognition.
Perfect. No, that's good. I think that one of the biggest points, that's what the Bible says,
Yeah.
to be humble, right?
Yeah.
And that's in everything that you do. So we're in our workspace, or we're at home, or we're on the court, or on the field, whatever. I think that having that as part of our baseline, I don't think you see it as often.
Well, true.
And I think that it's not as praised either. I don't think being a humble player is being good anymore.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I don't think that makes us weak.
Yeah.
I think I can be humble and be for the team and still be very successful.
Yeah. Absolutely. That is true. And that's what you guys have always done. All four of you guys.
It's not like play the game right. And playing the game right can get you burned. You know what I mean? You can lose out on deals, which is losing out on money. You know what I mean?
Because they want that kid that,
yes,
unfortunately, this society is geared towards that person,
Right.
outspoken,
Right.
just, to me,
right.
I won't say they're not godly people. They could be, but that's not what they're portraying out in the, in the atmosphere. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure with the NIL deals and things like that, that's prominent. The ones that you don't see, the ones that are humbled and sacrificing for the team.
Right.
They're not the ones that's getting the deals. It's the people that are out there, out in the forefront.
Right.
So
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, do you sacrifice your
Right.
What are you sacrificing? Your soul,
Right.
for money? And that's just not what we've taught you guys to do.
So then when it comes to being a peanut, your grandchildren, what would you do now, knowing just kind of how old the sports world is? Would you do anything different?
I would not change one thing because, I wouldn't change one thing because I would teach them the same lessons. And I do think that the way we have raised you guys is the best way. Money is not everything. You need it to survive.
Right.
And you want to make the money, but you're not going to sacrifice what you've been taught.
Right.
And what's right. And in our eyes, gloating and being boastful and loud, that's just, something that we would look for you guys to do, or our grandkids. Hopefully things will change and we'll start seeing the benefit of defense.
Yeah.
I've heard that one coach has actually told one of you guys that defense don't feed you or something to that person, so told her that in her eyes that the offensive players is what really makes a team. And that's just not true. So
that was a coach saying that too.
An assistant coach. I don't think a head coach would be that silly.
It
would be
yeah.
So I mean, So you have to, again, humble. It's like, hey, I'm still gonna do what I think is right.
Right.
Whether I get the accolades or the attention or being,
you have to do it.
the cars. God will provide
Every time. And that's the thing too. I think we get caught, especially in the social media world, of like what looks good, what looks hot, what looks flashy, it looks, rich.
Yeah.
And how quickly can we get that? Like,
Right.
yeah. None of those things, I don't think you guys have never embodied that those things matter. Those things are great. I think that's nice, but you've always stressed, the importance of family and relationship over materials and things that you can't take that. So, just so when I go back to asking that question about being a peanut, like I hope that you don't. I mean, we turned out great. I mean, look
fantastic.
And coming with them, I don't think, especially worldly views, has never been, our way of life.
Yep. And I don't know if you remember this, but I would always tell you guys whenever you left the house, we could always go to your games, and I would always say, remember who you are and remember whose you are. And you guys be looking like, oh, okay. That means you be who you are.
Scared.
Whether I'm around or
She said this with $15 the entirety of the weekend. Here you go. That McDonald's dollar menu is our best. Right? We made it, and we had $8 and change. I was like,
it changed.
I was like, no, we did it. Let's talk about a little bit of some obstacles, right? So, has there been a time one where you saw us not being humble, or you not being humble?
Oh, me several times.
Oh, good. Oh my goodness.
But I can't ever remember a time where you guys were not being humble. I don't think you were ever put in those positions.
Yeah.
Even with everybody knows you're in the community.
Right.
All of the moms, all of, Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
Charlene, Stacy, all of those. So you guys was always respectful to them and took their advice. And like you said, it did take a village.
Yeah.
So I don't think that they would have told me if they thought that you were not being humble or respectful or something like that. And I never had any complaints.
I think it was on ours.
Oh, no. They were on my side. Yeah. And I had them.
Yeah.
So I don't think there was ever time you guys were get humble. I mean,
let's say, so especially on the court,
I
can't be that loud, arrogant, cocky player. Because as soon as I gotta keep it like even kill.
If you start missing shots,
what? I'll go down there and say something because somebody says something to me back. I'll go down and miss it. I'm like, nah, coach, come see. I missed it. I'm trying to take it because I'm mad and I can't play mad.
Yeah.
I can't play mad. I gotta be very, not just like happy go lucky. Like I can be focused, but like, can't let people get under my skin. Can't let people get me out of character.
Right.
What about the advice you would give to parents, kids like who just, weren't in sports, but just everyday kids, maybe new moms, maybe some parents that have multiple kids? Like, what advice would you give them pertaining to being humble, humility?
I would say stay in tune with your kid. They may not like sports. They may like reading. Other things. But you stay in tune with your kid. And what I mean by that is you show whatever interest that they're showing you, you are interested in that too.
That's big.
Don't try to force them into, well, I want you to play basketball. Well, I want you to do soccer. I wouldn't force them to do that because that's just going to cause resentment. And they might do it, and they might even be good at it, but that I don't think they would excel. So
yeah. And last question: is there anything that you remember in the humility department that you got from your mom?
Well, I would say yes. Although I didn't have that much time with her. But she always took time with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the time that we had together, I remember always being around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with reference to her in sports as well, my brothers and sisters, you know, after church,
Mm-hmm.
we would always go outside and play right after church. I mean, we wouldn't even get out of our clothes,
Mm-hmm.
church clothes yet. We got a softball game, a baseball game. Actually, it was
Yes.
back.
16 of you.
Yeah. So we had our own team.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So we would go out and play. And I remember this one particular time, I was 5 years old, and I wanted to play
Mm-hmm.
baseball with my brothers, and they would have me as a pinch runner. They wouldn't let me bat, but they would let me run, right? So I was out there, you know, running, and my bags kept getting in the way.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so I went in the house, slipped my veins, and came back outside and was playing, and my mother saw me. She just said calmly, "BeLinda, come here." So I just hop and skip over there, and she began to wrap her hand around in my skirt so I couldn't run. And I was a runner.
Yeah.
And she got me.
Yeah.
And from then on, you know, I'm sure she had told me at one point, you know, you don't cut your hair, you don't do this, you don't even comb your hair back then. So, I mean, I don't know, that kind of humbled me, like I said, I'm not touching my hair.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, and she just taught me so many different things just by the way she lived and by the way she interacted with my brothers and sisters. Whoever needed her the most at that moment, that's who she would be with.
Right.
So, yeah, and as many kids as she had, and I'm being the last one, you know, we all felt like she, you know, we all needed her attention.
Yeah.
But she knew as a mom who needed it more at that time. So I think I learned that from her because I never tried to blanket raise you guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, each of you have your own personality.
Yeah.
So we had to address you differently than we would address Dear.
Right.
And Kira.
Right.
Harris.
Which is crazy because we all grew up in the same household.
Yeah.
With the same two parents.
Yeah.
We're all very
very different.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that because you still were able to have your own personality, do your own thing, and we still support you, and you know that you're loved.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, BeLinda. Can I call you BeLinda?
No.
Okay. Thank Mom. Yes, thank you for being here. Thank you for just kind of giving us a little bit about who you are and what you're about. And I think it's important to have those conversations, not only to help me when I become a mother, but, you know, forever who is listening and just to continue to get better from themselves. So you have an amazing story and you're an amazing mother. I'm not going to do too much.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. You are. We are very lucky. We are very fortunate to have you as our mother. So thank you for helping us become the people that we are and sacrificing and showing us what humility looks like. So,
well, thank you. It's been my pleasure to raise you guys. My time at home with you guys was my most cherished moments in my life. Yeah. So, hopefully one day, you know, you get to experience that.
Yes.
All right.
Fingers crossed. So, thank you so much for tuning in to the Playmakers Blueprints. Again, this is the podcast where we focus on crafting champions and shaping leaders. And just by hearing stories and experiences like that from my mother, you will automatically start living up in your game and in your everyday life. So tune in for next week. We have yet another episode. But Mom, thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
All right. All right, guys. See you next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Playmakers Blueprint. You can catch me every Monday at 6 p.m. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Catch you next week.